Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to discuss or talk about the last module for this quarter in oral communication, which is about types of speeches. Okay, so welcome back again to our oral communication class. So let's start our lesson. What are the lesson objectives for today? This module aims that you distinguish the types of speeches. Second, use principles of effective speech delivery in different situations. Third, use principles of effective speech writing. And four, use principles of speech effective delivery. Okay, so let us see what are the different purpose of speeches. We have two types. These are the expository speech and the persuasive speech. Okay, so the expository has subtopics, same with persuasive. Okay, it also have different types. So let's begin with expository, or we call it, or we can also say informative speech. Okay, so what is expository or informative speech? This kind of speech is meant to inform and enlighten about a topic they do not know. The goal of the speaker is to impart knowledge and help make the audience understand the topic. Okay, so that's the reason why is it expository. It means to explain, okay? To explain something. Like your goal, why you are making this speech is to explain, to impart knowledge to your listeners, okay? So an expository speech can be about object, speeches about object, speeches about process, event, or concept. Okay, so those are the different types of expository or informative speech. Okay, again, the goal of this type of speech is to impart knowledge, okay, to share, to explain. Okay, that's why it's informative. Now, let's move on with its different types. So we have speeches about an object. Okay, well, of course, these are speeches that are related to objects. Okay, so topics can be anything that our senses can experience. Examples are speeches about beaches in Palawan, the new perfume from a celebrity, your favorite food, etc. Okay, any speeches related to an object. Okay, so we all know that an object, it's tangible, we can feel, we can touch it. Okay, so anything that are any speeches related or talking about an object, that is speeches about an object. Okay, any objects. Okay, second would be speeches about events. Okay, so here, these are speeches about incidents, experiences, historical or personal. Okay, that's why it's events, it's incidents, experiences. Okay, so events discussed can be something from the past or the current one. Okay, it could happened before or it's still happening. Okay, so this kind of speech aims to bring the audience consciousness to things that happened and that are happening or about to happen in our world. Okay, so this type of speeches, speech about events, also help us to know the different historical events that happened before and to be updated to what is happening nowadays. Okay, so that is speeches about events. Okay, example of these could be for example, President's inaugural address. Yan, that's an example of speeches about events. What else? It could be a baby was born during a calamity, or even simple things like your first time to attend a Chinese wedding. Okay, so any speeches about events. Okay, it could be a birthday party or like an anniversary. Yeah, so those are speeches about events. Okay. Next, speech about concept. So, what do we mean by this? Speech about concept, it talks about the abstract or simply what we cannot perceive using our senses. Philosophies and theories or views on world peace or racial discrimination or gender politics are some examples. Okay, so we still have two more types of informative speech. I wasn't able to put it here. I don't know why, but let me explain it for you. Another type of expository or informative speech is what we call the speech about process. Okay. So what is that? When we say speech about process, it means it's like a system or this speech merely focus on how this thing is done. Okay, like a process. For example, it could be like a speech about how to be or how to make a pasta or speech about how to play volleyball or basketball. Okay, so that's why it's speech about process. It is talking about how this thing is done, a process on how this thing is done. Okay, that is an example of speech about process. Okay, so that's all. Those four: speech about an object, speech about events, speech about concept, and speech about process. Okay, so those are the different expository or informative speech. Okay. Next, let's move on with persuasive speech. Okay, so this one, it's different. The goal of this is, speech is different from the previous one. Of course, it's persuasive, to persuade. Okay, so persuasive speech is all about pushing people into action, whether to do or not to do something. It is created in such a way to arouse favor against for a policy, person, or plan. Persuasion is all about making people believe or do something. It is important for the speaker to influence the object to agree with him or her on his or her points. The goal of this speech is to make the listeners feel good about the lecture and not feel coerced or forced, but not just informed. Okay, so that is persuasive speech. The reason or the goal of this speech is to persuade people, to influence, okay, or somehow to change their ideals. Okay, that is persuasive speech. Usually, persuasive speech is done in a campaign, okay, political campaign, right? So, whenever we are attending speeches of political campaigns, the goal of that is always persuasive speech. Okay? So, meaning the person or the speaker is influencing you to vote that person or to vote him or her, right? So, that's an example of persuasive speech. We also have different types of persuasive speech, just like the expository speech. Okay? So, what are those? We have factual, persuasive speech. We also have value, persuasive speech. We also have policy, persuasive speech, speech to actuate, speech to convince, and lastly, speech to inspire. Okay, so let's continue with the first one. Okay, so the first one is entertainment speech. Okay, wait for a while. Okay, so let's discuss each types of persuasive speech first. What is factual persuasive speech? Okay, so when we say factual persuasive speech, it means to say that it is talking more on facts. Okay, so here the core basis to answer this speech is it true? Okay, the word true is connected with the word factual. When we say factual, it is true. Okay, so this speech uses evidence to back up his or her points in convicting the audience to determine the truth. Okay, so it the speech is supported with proofs, with evidences, in order for people or for the listeners to believe with the speaker even more. Okay. Aside from that, this speech is used to convince listeners whether Pluto is a planet or if vaccines cause autisms in children. Yan. So those are an example of factual persuasive speech. It could be like what is happening right now, the COVID-19. Like, is it true that we have different variants of viruses? Okay, so that could be, or kaya naman, does vaccines or do you think vaccines are really effective? Okay, so those are some questions that we can connect with the factual persuasive speech. Okay, so all you need to remember in factual persuasive speech is this speech talks about facts, true. Okay, so in order for you to appear authentic and for your listeners to not question your speeches or the content of your speech. So it must be reliable and it must be supported with different proofs. Okay, next. Next one is value persuasive speech. Okay, so what do we mean by value persuasive speech? So since it has the word value, so it talks about ethics and morality. Okay, value persuasive speech talks about ethics or morality, as I've said a while ago. So this means that in this speech, we talk about if things are morally right. Okay, for example, whether or not same-sex marriage should be allowed in the Philippines. Another example could be the abortion, the topic abortion, right? We all know that when it comes to abortion, of course, church is against of that. But for the church, using different um, tools when it comes to producing a child is also a kind of abortion for them. But for the government, it's not. Okay. So that is value persuasive speech. So it talks about how morally right this thing is. Okay. Next, policy persuasive speech. So this is to influence the audience whether to reject or support a rule, regulation, or dogma. It is to persuade them to go against or maintain the status quo. An example of this speech can be about adopting federalism in our country or having a constitutional change. Okay, so that is policy persuasive speech. Next, speech to actuate. So meaning speech to act, okay, involves convincing people to act, okay. So this kind of speech, the intention of this speech is to help you or to make you act, okay. For example, in environment, in speeches about environment, okay, mostly their types of speech is speech to actuate. It tells us what we should do, or it tells us that we should act right now. Okay, so next, um this speech is created to influence the behavior of the audience. An example is meeting the avance. Yan. So that's an example of speech to actuate. Okay. Next is speech to convince. Yan. So this one naman, of course, to convince people. Okay. So speech to convince is uh, to establish conviction. Okay, so an example of this kind of speech can be a conclusion that women are better than men. Okay, so that is the speech to convince. And lastly, speech to inspire. Okay, so mostly when we are listening to godly speeches, yung mga shares, yung mga nag-share sa mga churches ng kanilang mga experiences and their how they overcome those struggles. Yan. So mostly, this speech is to inspire, to give us inspiration, to give us hope. Okay, so there are times that I always listen to those types of speeches, especially if I have a problem or if I'm really down. Yan, I've always listened to those kind of speeches where it really gives me hope, encouragement that um, all the struggles that this person have been through, um, these are the struggles that is much more harder compared with mine, but he or she were able to overcome it. Then I will be able to overcome it through God. Okay, so that is a speech to inspire. It could be not really more on life, or it could also be speech to inspire you to be a better person. It's speech to inspire you to work harder. Yeah. So those are the different kinds of speech to inspire. Okay, so we have examples here: eulogies, commencement speeches, New Year messages are some examples. Okay, so that is the different types of persuasive speeches. Okay, so as you can see, all these types of persuasive speech, its main goal is really to persuade us, okay, to convince and to influence. Okay, so next, we have entertainment speech. Okay, so based from the word entertainment, its goal is to entertain people. Okay, to entertain its listener. A speech for entertainment purpose is to make the listeners enjoy, smile, or relax. Okay, maintaining the attention and focus of the audience is important, and the speaker can do that by telling a joke or dramatizing an anecdote or story, or tell a scary story, etc. Okay, so its main goal is to give us some entertainment. Okay, to make us enjoy, smile, and relax. That's the main goal of entertainment speech. Okay, so those are the different purpose of speech. We have expository. Second one is persuasive speech, and third is entertainment speech. Okay, now let's move on with the methods of delivery. Okay, so we have also different methods of delivering a speech. Okay, so these are the different types. We have reading from manuscript, memorized speech, impromptu speech, and extemporaneous speech. Okay, so let's have the first one. The first one is reading from manuscript. Okay, so here in reading from manuscript, this is delivering a speech from a text. Okay, so here, based from the word, it is it is only reading. Okay, so it's like here you are simply reading a text. Okay, so reading from manuscript is like, it is like reading a text. Okay, so this is delivering a speech from text, written word for word. Okay, so it's like reading a book or reading a speech. Okay, this is good for speaker who would want to practice beforehand the speech they will be delivering. Okay, so you have a speech, you just read it. Just that is reading from manuscript. Okay, this is to ensure that they will not forget their words. Yan. So, of course, if you will read, you will not forget any words, okay, because you're just reading it. What else? The weakness of this method is that speaker may at times be more focused on reading the manuscript rather than connecting with the audience. Okay, so that is right. So it's important that whenever you are doing a speech, you are not merely reading it. Okay, because you will not establish a connection with your listeners. Okay, and also make sure that when you are doing this reading from manuscript, you are still comprehending with what you read. You can understand. Okay? Kasi most of the time, when we are doing this, we just tend to read it. We don't understand. We just read it. Okay? So, if you will be able to read and explain at the same time, you can establish much more connection with your audience. Okay? Next, second is memorize speech. This method, this one, so this method, the memorize speech, entails a word for word delivery. Okay? So, memorized speech is not reading anymore since you memorize it. Okay? Meaning to say, you already studied the speech, you memorize it, even without looking at the manuscript or the speech or the text, you can say it. Okay? So, that is memorized speech. This speech is written by the speaker. During the delivery of the speech, no note cards or manuscripts are used. Okay? So since it's memorized speech, now what would be the advantage of this kind of speech? There might be time that you will forget. 'Di ba? Not all the time that all the things that you memorize, you can say it, right? Unless you really practice it so hard. But there are times that we forgot what we memorized. Okay, so that will be the advantage of that. What else? Kasi pag iyan ay memorize speech, you are focused more on what you memorize. Okay? So there are times na pag nakalimutan mo, hindi mo na alam kung paano i-adlib. Kasi you are focused on what you memorize. You are not focused on what the message of this speech. Okay? So, ganun din when you are delivering a report. When you're delivering or a report in a class and you memorize the explanation, pag nakalimutan mo yun, mas mahirap. Pag may nakalimutan kang part dun sa minemorize mo na explanation, mas mahirap. Okay, what else? When your teacher asks you a question that you are not prepared about, or you did not you um yeah, you did not memorize. Okay? So, it will be harder for you to answer because you are focused more on memorizing the speech or memorizing the topic. Okay? So, that is the advantage of memorize speech. Another weakness of this method is that the speaker can sound robotic or may rush when speaking. Okay? Especially if you are nervous. Okay? This the room for no ad libs in this method can sometimes feel rigid and stiff, especially when the speaker does not use correct emotions or emphasis on the right parts and would always lack spontaneity. This method of delivery can still be beneficial. Okay, so in this type of speech, you have to make sure that you really studied it. Okay, so you also have to make sure that you understand the speech, you understand the message. Okay? So that although mawala-wala ka sa part sa gitna ng speech mo, you can still do an ad-libs that is connected with the speech. Okay? So when you are memorizing, you also have to make sure that you understand. Okay? That's only the secret of that. Next, impromptu speech. So, what is this kind of speech? This method is used when you speak at the spur of the moment. Okay, meaning you are speaking live. Okay, at that moment. Okay, so recitations or speaking during a meeting are some instances where you use this method. Okay, like for example, I ask you a question, I call you, and then you answer. That's an example of impromptu speech. Okay, you are speaking or giving speech live at the moment. Okay, what else? Um, this method relies on stock knowledge on the subject and requires you to organize your ideas while speaking. Okay, so that is true. So it relies on your background knowledge about the topic. Okay, so that is impromptu speech. So for example, you were assigned to have an impromptu speech. So you have to make sure, kasi pag impromptu speech, usually meron topic, there's a topic given. So you have to make sure that you very well know the topic that you're assigned with, so that any questions that will be thrown to you, you can answer. Okay? So what else? Thinking on your feet is a skill that complements this method because of the lack of time for preparation. Okay? So dito sa impromptu speech, dito na magkakasubukan if you really have a background knowledge on the topic, if you really study. Okay? Kasi mahirap to. Impromptu speech, it's live. Okay? Seems like you have no preparation. Okay? So that is impromptu speech. Unlike sa memorized speech, you already memorize what you're gonna say. Ganon din sa reading manuscript. You are giving speech based on what you read. Unlike here, okay, wala ka rin ditong notes, okay? Wala kang titingnan. You rely on your knowledge, kung anong alam mo. Okay? That is impromptu speech. Okay, next. Avoid rambling, mumbling, or fleeting from one idea to another. Focusing on your central idea is the key in impromptu speech. Okay, focusing on the topic given to you. Okay, last, extemporaneous speech. Okay, so this is speaking when you only use an outline as a guide when delivering your speech. Okay, so ito yung parang maglalagay ka lang ng keywords, okay, for you to understand or for you to remember. Okay, so yung mga outline. This is like middle ground between memorized delivery and impromptu delivery. Okay, so kaya siya memorize din itong extemporaneous speech because you memorize the speech, but at the same time, um, you also rely on your stock knowledge. Okay? What else? This method still requires preparation. However, it only uses an outline. Okay? So when I was college, when I was reporting, okay, kasi may times na pinagre-report kami in front of our classmates. This is what I usually do, extemporaneous speech. Like I will only write keynotes or the things that I need to remember on my report. So whenever I am reporting or while I am reporting, I will just look of it. Okay? So hindi naman yung obvious na parang you're reading it. Okay? So you're like looking at it so that you will know what is the flow of your speech or of your report. Okay? So that is extemporaneous speech. Okay? So parang kayo ay may guide. Okay? Next, when this method is used carelessly, it will sound like a bad impromptu speech. Executing this method properly will result to an almost memorized speech with the flexibility to move about and ad-lib here and there, thus sounding more natural. Okay? Actually, among the three, this is what I like the most, the extemporaneous speech. Okay? Every time you're delivering a speech. So parang maglalagay ka lang ng mga keynotes, ng mga guides mo while delivering the speech. And that will help you to remember. Okay? Pagka halimbawa nawawala ka na, hindi mo na alam sasabihin, if meron kang outline, yan, so that will help you remember what you're gonna say, what you are supposed to say. Okay? So that is all for the different methods of delivery. Okay, delivering a speech. Okay, we have reading manuscript, memorize, impromptu, and extemporaneous speech. Okay, now let's move on with the principles of speech writing. Okay, so this one naman, writing a speech. Kanina, delivery. This one, writing. Okay, so here, yan. So we have here the parts of the speech. Okay, so this one is an example of um, outline. Okay, so here in writing a speech you need to follow these. Okay, so these are the different parts of the speech. So first you're gonna start with introduction. Okay? So, lagi naman yan, pagka-writing, laging may introduction, body, conclusion. So, let's have introduction. The first one is attention getter. Okay? So, you have to think that whenever you're delivering a speech, you should always start with your speech on how you can get the attention of your listener. Okay? In a way there where they can hook up with your speech, or they will be attracted to listen to you. Okay, that's why it's attention getter. You might start your speech with a question, with a quotation, okay, or kaya naman with some challenging questions. Yan, so you can start like that. Okay, so attention getter. Okay, next, significance. What is the importance of your speech? Credibility. This is a statement, or it's the main core of your speech. And then preview, and then transition into your first main point. Okay? Next, after introduction, we have your body. What are the contents, or what you should put on the body in writing a speech? First main point, first subpoint and supporting material, transition closing of main point 1, and opening main point 2. Okay, so here as you can see, meron dito transition into your first main point. So from introduction, you will transition, or you will put a transition on your speech to the main body. Okay, so here, you're gonna put here your first topic or your first point on your speech, second point on your speech, and the third main point of your speech. So here, on the uh, third main point of the body, so transition into closing. Yan. So, mag-change ka na into closing. Okay? So now, you have conclusion, we have review and main points. Final statement should also link back to intro. Yan. So the final statement should be connected with the introduction. Okay, I know you already experienced this writing speech, right? Especially nung high school, pinapractice yan, lalo na nung face-to-face. It's good sana if we are face-to-face, we can do this. We can have speech. Okay, you will perform in the class, and then you're gonna deliver a speech. So in that way, you can really apply speech. So you're gonna speech your own speech. What I mean to say is, you're gonna speak in front of the class your own written speech. Okay? You're gonna perform it in the class. Yung sarili mong sinulat na speech, yun din yung ipo-perform mo sa class. Okay? So that's a nice activity. Kaya lang, we can do this online. You can take a video. Kaya lang, we're running out of time. Aside from that, when we are doing performance task that is outside the module, it is not graded anymore. Okay? So, baka ang iba, sabihin, masaya lang effort, ganyan-ganyan. So, I will just stick with the module. Okay? And isa pa talaga, we're running out of time. Okay? So, mahirap din mag-grade isa-isa. Okay? So that is all for the different parts of the speech. Okay, next. Okay, first, choosing the topic on your speech. So choosing a topic means knowing what your goal is. Okay, what is the purpose of this speech? Okay, in choosing a topic, this is also connected to your interests. Okay, choose something that you are interested in or know about to make it less tedious on your part. Or it could be a topic that you are very curious about. That could be. Okay? So choosing a topic is important because, again, that is the importance or the significance of your speech. Okay? So yung speech mo, lahat yan connected sa topic na pinili mo. Okay? Next, second, analyzing the audience. Part of speech preparation is knowing who will be your listeners. You would need to adapt to their age range, interest, needs, and expectations. Okay? So you have gauge their educational level, race, religion, geographic uniqueness, income, gender, and language. That is right. Okay, so it's important that when you're delivering of speech, you are knowledgeable who will be your listeners, who will be your audience, in order for you to easily connect with them, in order for you to easily grab their attention when delivering a speech. Kasi when you know your audience, you can establish easily the connection. Okay? And when you already establish the connection, it's a good feeling when you are delivering a speech. Kasi it's such a nice feeling that whenever you're delivering a speech, you can see that your audience are really listening, right? So that will only happen if they found a connection to your speech. Okay? So remember to be careful with your use of words as this will greatly affect your influence on people. Okay, so you have to be aware on their culture as well. Okay, so because just like what we studied last time, so um, uh, what might good or in terms of words what might good to us might be not good with the other culture or might be offending with the other culture. Okay, so you have to consider also the cultural differences of people. Okay, so next. Okay. Sourcing the information. Okay. So speech preparation must also include gathering information about the topic. Select the materials according to its relevance, depth, breadth to the topic and your audience. Okay. So it's important also that you search for information. Okay. To support your claims, to support your opinions on your speech. Okay. So you can also gather different speeches or different opinions from other people. Okay, so you can use anecdotes or humorous, unique, or interesting stories to make your speech richer and to illustrate points. Yeah, so you can also use quotations. Be careful of the quality of your research. You will be sharing this to an audience, so be very careful when using resources as they will affect your credibility. Okay? So be careful. Baka mamaya yung speech nyo, kinopy-paste nyo lang sa internet and then magpo-perform kayo sa mga audience and then you never know. Baka ang isa dyan, kilala yung author. Okay? Baka ang isa dyan, anak pala nung author, nung sumulat nung speech. Okay? So you might be accused with plagiarism. Okay? So be careful. So to be safe, wag na lang mag-plagiarize, okay? You write on your own, okay? So, that is all for um, writing a speech, okay? So now, let's move on with another topic, which is the principles of speech delivery. So here we are also going to discuss a lot of topics in this principles. Okay, so let's start. We have voice. Okay, our voice when we are delivering a speech. First is rate or speed. The speed or rate varies and will depend on the mood or thought that you will like to communicate. Okay, well, of course, if your speech is more on about a humorous speech, so your energy must hype up the audience. It must be high. Okay, if you are talking with a speech that has more serious topics, so your rate or speed of your voice must be like a normal one. Okay, it is important to determine which parts of your speech should you slow down or when to be fast. Okay, so of course, when you're delivering a speech, you have to slow down to parts of your speech where you think is really important or where you think you should give more emphasis. Okay, so in delivering a speech, it doesn't have to be fast. Okay, so it must be like normal. Okay, in a way where your audience can understand you. Okay, next, pause. Pauses in speeches are important so that the listeners are given some time to let the information or emotions sink in. A pause may be used to elicit anticipation, kill boredom, or emphasize a word. Okay, so using pause will also help you to, or will help the audience or your listener to understand you better. Okay? So could you imagine if you have no pauses when delivering a speech? So it will be harder for you. And at the same time, it will be harder for your audience, right? Next, duration. The type of speech dictates the duration of the speech. Each occasion will call for different length. Fast speakers can talk at 160 words a minute. On the other hand, a slower one uses 100 words per minute. Okay, so next, last for voice is rhythm. Yan. Okay, so speech rhythm is how spoken words are arranged, alternating from the stress and unstressed elements. It is also the rising and falling of the voice that adds cadence and regularity during speech delivery. Okay, let's have the first one, the pitch. Pitch refers to how high or low your tone is perceived. Okay, this element usually conveys emotions when used in speaking. Volume, this is the loudness or softness of a sound. This element shows the energy behind the speaker. Okay? Meron naman kasing naturally speakers that has naturally soft voice, right? So a good speaker must always speak in a modulated voice, one that is neither too loud nor too soft. Oh, yan. Okay? So, English major, every time we are delivering a speech, they always expect us to have a modulated voice, like a loud voice, but it's also clear. Okay? So, ganun din when we are demo teaching, it's important that as an English major, we have a modulated voice. Okay? So, yun din ang hinahanap ng mga employer when we are applying for a job, especially if your job or your career is a teacher, because we are more on giving speeches. Okay? So, parang we as a teacher, ang puhunan namin in this career is our brain and our voice. Okay? Next, enunciation. This is the correct articulation or pronunciation of words. Pronunciation focus on the rhythm, stress, and intonation of syllables. Articulation, on the other hand, is about the individual sound created. To be able to create a more meaningful, clearer, and more accurate speech, the speaker must always enunciate words properly. Yes. So, in giving speech, it's important that you can pronounce words clearly and appropriately. Okay? So, if you don't know or if you are not sure about the pronunciation or how to pronounce these words, you can search on the internet. Okay? So, there's available pronunciation with audio of different words that can help you to know what is the appropriate pronunciation of this word. Okay? Next, fluency, how fluent you are in delivering a speech or in speaking, whether it be Tagalog or English. Okay? So this is frequently observed when engaged in an impromptu speech. This is the ability to express and speak smoothly without difficulty in utilizing the appropriate words. Fluency or good diction adds the value of smoothness of flow in communication. Absence of fluency can result to misinformation and may lessen one's persuasiveness, leading the audience to lose focus on what you are saying. Okay? So, pansin nyo, if a speaker is good in pronouncing words and he or she is very fluent in delivering that speech. So, mas lalong nagagrab ang attention ng mga listener. Like, wow, this person can really speak well. She's so good. He's so good in delivering a speech. Okay? But if the speaker is not that good in pronouncing words, most of the time, nami-mispronounce niya ang word, ganun din sa fluency, so mas naboboard yung listener mo, okay? Because when you are good in delivering a speech, when you are good in pronouncing words, okay, when you are very fluent on speaking, okay, like your audience will know that this person is really good. Parang hindi ka basta-basta, okay? You're not an ordinary speaker. Parang ganun. Okay? So next. Okay, so now let's have the body. Okay, so this is the body of um, your your body when you are delivering a speech. Okay, so we already finished with your voice, what you should do in your voice while delivering a speech. We're already finished. Yeah, with the voice, and the next one is body. Okay, so in body we have different aspects that we should consider while delivering a speech. Shoulders. Okay, let's have the first one. So movement and position of shoulders convey the behavior of the speaker. Okay, so relaxed shoulders are always a must to communicate integrity and maintain your influence. Hunched shoulders, sinabi natin hunched shoulders, yung mga naka-slouch, okay? Projects doubt and uncertainty on the speaker part, which results to your listeners and doubting you. Okay? Kasi when you have a good posture, okay, when your shoulders are positioned properly, okay, so it signifies confidence. Okay, it means that you are very confident on what you are saying. Okay, but when you are slouching, it means, or it only signifies that you are not confident in delivering a speech. You are not confident in speaking. Okay, like you have a doubt, you are not sure. It signals uncertainty. Okay, next, second, arms and hands. So what you should do on your arms and hands, the movement of the hands and arms signals purpose and grace. If not used to express something, let them rest at the side. Be careful with gestures. Too big gestures may look to the theatrical, and no hand or arm movements tend to make you look stiff and awkward. Okay, so there are times that we use our hands while explaining a speech, right? And that really helps. Kaya lang, do not overuse. Okay, tama lang. So you can use that while explaining particular things in a speech, or you can use that if you want to emphasize something. Okay, wag naman all the time. Lagi mo na lang ginagamit yung hands mo while delivering a speech. Okay? Next, eyes. Yan. Our eyes is really important while delivering a speech. Our eye contact with our audience. Okay? Pag meron tayong eye contact with our audience, with our listener, it is much easier to connect with them. Okay? 'Di ba? As you can notice, kahit hindi sa speech, kahit nakikipag-usap ka lang sa iyong friends, kahit nakikipag-usap ka lang sa ibang tao, you will know that this person is interested to what you are saying if he or she has eye contact with you, right? So, maintaining eye contact with your audience conveys confidence and encourages connection with them. How you move your eyes also affect the message you are sending. Rolling your eyes may convey disregard, while giving them the side eye may send a message that you were offended in some way by a member of the audience. Ayan. Of course, parang very rare naman na nakikita natin yun sa isang speaker, yung sumisiring. Okay? So, lagi yan, eye contact. Or kaya naman, do not or never ever do this while delivering a speech. Yung you are avoiding eye contact with your audience, do not ever do that. Okay? Kasi it will signal that you are not comfortable. Okay? Or it signals that you are nervous. Okay? So that's why it's important to have an eye contact. Okay? Next, posture. Good posture, especially when speaking, signals control, courage, authority, and belief. Okay? So, ang dami. Ang daming importance ng posture. Okay? Having a good posture while delivering a speech speaks confidence. Okay? So, this movement provides a mental connect. Stand straight with your feet apart, okay, and shoulders squared facing the audience. Do not lean or slouch as it may convey anxiety or disinterest. Okay? Parang ang posture connected din siya sa shoulders. Okay? So you have to have a good posture. Okay? Do not slouch because if you have a good posture, that will also help you to make your listener listen to you. Okay? Next, walking. Okay? Movements attract attention when delivering a speech. Every once in a while, speaker must move away from uh, the lectern to be visibly available to the listeners. This movement provides a mental connection wherein you show what you want your audience to connect and empathize with you. Too much movement, however, may become too distracting, and work against you. Okay? um, Minimal walking lang. Okay? Kasi mas maganda din yung hindi ka lang nag stay sa isang position while delivering a speech. It is also nice na you are also walking or roaming around. Parang you're making sure that your listeners are really listening or your audience are really paying attention. Okay? Next, facial expression. Okay? So facial expressions, the face can give a lot of information to the receiver of the message. The face unconsciously communicates fear, joy, sadness, or doubt. So a speaker must always be mindful of his reactions. The brain is programmed to make sense of even the slightest ticks or micro ticks of the face. Practice in front of the mirror or record yourself speaking. You can observe how your face moves when speaking. Okay? So, of course, meron namang mga parts sa speech mo that you need to have an appropriate facial expression. Okay? Like for example, merong part sa speech mo na sad, so your facial expression must be sad. Alangan naman tumawa ka, 'di ba? So, may times naman na hindi mo namamalayan na nakasimangot ka na pala, 'di ba? But you have to practice. Sabi nga dito sa module, you can face in front of the camera and practice while you are delivering a speech. Okay? So next, appearance. So your appearance also matters as a speaker. Okay? So when we say excuse me, when we say appearance, it refers to what you're gonna wear, how you will look like. Okay, like the old like the old age, first impression lasts. It is important for a speaker to also take extra care of her or his appearance. This means you have to be aware of how you dress up. Each occasion entails different dress codes. And as a speaker, you must always dress accordingly to convey integrity, confidence, and authority. Okay? As you can notice, mostly ang speakers, halimbawa, speaker sa isang commencement exercise, sa graduation, di ba? Or kaya sa recognition, most of them wear formal attires, right? But for example, casual gathering siya, so yung host ganun din, okay? So I mean the speaker, okay? Parang the speaker will adapt to what is the setting or what is the occasion, okay? Next, aside from that, um, good grooming is a basic element to always practice. Remember that you must always be mindful of how you project yourself as to avoid distracting your audience from your message. Okay? So to sum up our lesson, about speech. So in delivering a speech, you must always remember what is your goal? Why you are delivering this speech, okay? Yes, it's important yung mga posture, mga body movement, your physical appearance. Yes, that's important. And everything that I mentioned a while ago, okay? Those are important. But what is most important in delivering a speech is the message, okay? The message of your speech. Okay, because you never know, that particular speech might influence your audience. Okay, and the result would be positive. Okay, it might somehow change their ideals. Okay, it might somehow inspire them. Okay, so again, you have to focus on why you are delivering the speech. That is really important. Okay, because the things that I mentioned a while ago, these are the things that will help you to deliver the speech properly. Okay, and ano ba yung speech, tungkol saan yun? Tungkol yun sa message na gusto mong ipaabot sa iyong listener. Okay? So that's what important at the end of the day. Okay? So that will be the end of my discussion for this module. Okay, yeah. So this will be the end. See you again next meeting.